You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Local experts on the #1 daily sports podcast network. Thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, and you can subscribe to the podcast anywhere you get them. iTunes, Stitcher, you get the picture there. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Hornets and at Walker Mail. This episode is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. A big thank you to our friends at McDonald's for always being there. And we also appreciate David Walker for always being there. Man, a guy that you can always count on to show up when you need him on a Friday to talk about the Charlotte Hornets fashion, the shoe game, and just give you some good overall analysis on how the Hornets have been playing. David Walker making, once again, a weekly appearance. We're going to start this once over on these Fridays. David, I appreciate it, man. How are you doing?
I'm great, man. I'm just glad the door is still open, dude. I mean, it's always great to come home. So I'm glad to be back. You know, of course, sad that Nada's gone, but you know, he's catching wins on the sneakers app today. So he's doing great.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Did he really catch a win on sneakers app?
Yeah. Shout out to Nada.
That's great. I've been throwing in the bump where I talk about how you guys are addicted to the sneaker drug game. I've been throwing that one in, and every time I listen to it, one, I laugh, and two, it's like, you know, I always get a little bit intrigued by it, but I'm like, nah, man, I can't hop on it. And yet you're always welcome. You're always welcome. This is the nest that has a hard time changing your room into a man cave or a weight room or anything like that. Like, it's always going to be the way you left it. Same thing with Nada. When he wants to come back, I can't change his room. Same thing with Doug. That's just what Locked On Hornets is. You know, we keep the rooms the same.
It's awesome, man. It's great.
I'm excited to talk with you every single week. Every Friday, we're going to be doing this. And so now everybody starting to get a little bit of the schedule, how it's going to work. We got a few weekly guests on the back half of these weeks, going to try to rotate some of the new guests Mondays and Tuesdays, maybe go solo every once in a while, but there's so many people to bring on. So I really appreciate everybody sticking with me after Nada leaving. Now we've got David back, Wes on Wednesdays, Julian Council Thursdays, and then we have a couple of rotating guests on those Mondays and Tuesdays. So David, let's talk about the Charlotte Hornets and how they've looked on the court before, of course, we get to your specialty, the jerseys, the shoes, all the fashion stuff. But Golden State, you know, this was a game they lost to go to 5-4 on the season. They start 3-0, great start, beat Brooklyn, unexpected. Then they go to 5-2, which I also think still gives you the same type of feelings of a 3-0 start. Now here they are 5-4. More disappointing loss to Cleveland, right? I think that's the one where you look at and say, okay, that's the one that's disappointing, even if they don't match up well with the Cavs, because they're huge, because Cleveland starts 3 7-footers and we have one. So, you know, when you look at that, it's okay, that's a bad matchup, still a disappointing loss. And then they lose to Golden State. What are your overall feelings around the Hornets right now after a 5-4 start?
Yeah, I think you have to be excited. I think everyone is. Rightly so, a little disappointing as of late. I mean, that Cleveland loss was such a stinger because it really, everything that was going wrong for the Hornets, or everything that they were kind of approaching it wrong, getting off to those slow starts, came to a head in that game. And they just got way too far behind. They had already beaten Cleveland, so you knew they could do that. Mm-hmm. And to your point, like, Cleveland is there was something came out today. I don't know if it was on the Ringer or someone else, but they're kind of zagging when everybody else is zigging, playing those three big guys, right? So it is not a great matchup for the Hornets against the Cavaliers, but still, that was a game that you were watching and you were saying to yourself as it was happening, this is bad. This should not be going down like this. They did make a run, which has become their thing, so that's good. But they, you know, they can't get in those holes like they're doing. And to their credit, you like to see them bounce back, have a good start against Golden State, you know, get out to a good start and have a good first half there. So that was encouraging, because honestly, you didn't feel great about that game anyway. It's on ESPN. It's at 10 o'clock Eastern time. You're playing Steph Curry. But they held up pretty well, I thought, in that. It's the first time on a national stage when they haven't been, completely embarrassing right out of the gate. So all in all, a good start. You want to see them get some of these wins on the road to kind of bank some of those W's coming back home. But certainly the 3-0 start was exciting. They're still playing that exciting brand of basketball. They just got to fine tune some things. They're getting some guys back, Terry, a little rusty. So I still get the feeling that they're feeling themselves out a little bit because they haven't had all these guys healthy at once for a long, long time. So you kind of hope that that's in the works. But all in all, I mean, a positive start. You got to feel good about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, you absolutely do, with that Cleveland loss being the one that you look at. You wish you would have gone to 6-3, but here you are 5-4. I think it does put a little bit of an importance on this game tonight against Sacramento. You want to try to keep that cushion between you and 500, and certainly falling below it, especially with this road trip that you're on. Bang, right out of the gate. Okay, you were able to build what was a nice start, which kind of helps you go into this road trip. And that's why the Cleveland loss was more disappointing, so considering context, but also it makes this game really important against Sacramento. And David, we can remember the games against Sacramento have been thrilling. We can go
Crazy.
to the Miracle at Midnight, and then with Troy Daniels, and then we can go to the Miracle at Midnight Part 2 that we experienced last year. PJ Washington goes for 42, nailing buckets all over the place. They're down. I forget what the margin of I forget what the margin was for them, but they came back like 10 points down with a minute left, or 8 points down with a minute left. It's finished with Malik Monk's and one, and then they go on to win that game. Can we get a Miracle at Midnight Part 3 against Sacramento on the road? That's what I'm excited to see tonight.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'll just take a win, as I know you will. But yeah,
Yes, I
I
will.
mean, these games are always exciting. They're underrated classics. Nobody knows about them because why would you? They're never on national TV. But I mean, Eric Collins was already pubbing the Miracle after midnight in the waning moments of the Warriors game. Still didn't give credit to Doug. I don't know if Doug was watching the Hornets feed, but if he was, I'm sure it stung him again.
I know he's frustrated. He wants his credit. He wants his credit for Sky Miles. He wants his credit for Miracle after midnight. He wants all of the credit that Eric Collins or any other Hornets fan has used when he's come up with something.
That's right. But for Hornets fans that have not watched this Kings team, I mean, they're kind of frisky. They match up or the teams kind of match up evenly with each other. They both get up and down. They both score points. The rebounding is pretty even. Harrison Barnes has had a really fast start to the year this year and is playing really well. A guy that's oddly, he's never mentioned in that the Hornets could have drafted guy conversation. But
so it's always like Bradley Beal, right?
Exactly.
And then Harrison Barnes kind of falls to the wayside because Beal was right there.
Exactly. But Rashawn Holmes, a guy that a lot of Hornets fans wanted the Hornets to take a longer look at in the offseason. So a lot of interesting storylines. And of course, then you got Fox and you got Halliburton. I mean, they've got some talent out there. Mm-hmm. The Hornets, to your point, have to come out and take this game seriously just for the win, for one, to bounce back from that loss. But the main reason is that the Kings are not just going to roll over and be afraid of the Hornets. So they do need to bring their A game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, and especially, you do have this you had the LA teams coming up. You got the Lakers game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's good about this is that I don't want to say what's good. It's always weird to say that. But what is going to help the Hornets is that maybe LeBron James might not play in that game because of the rectus abdominis. And I don't know if you saw that tweet, but as soon as people saw the front word rectus, people ran with that in the comments saying, oh, LeBron okay? Everything okay down there? Clearly not realizing what the actual injury is, and it's on his rib cage, folks. It's in his actual abdominal muscles. Anyway,
come on,
but
guys.
LeBron might not hopefully that could be an advantage for the
that would help.
Yeah, it certainly would. Maybe the not the real GOAT. We're not going to do that with MJ here, but LeBron, certainly one of the better players of all time. If he doesn't go, that would certainly help.
But no, I mean, maybe they catch a little luck, right? Maybe on the back half of this road trip, if you can get a win here against the Kings, you never know what you're going to get against the Clippers on Sunday. But then certainly not facing LeBron would help because they don't beat LeBron. I don't think have they ever done it. I don't know. I can't ever remember. So if he's not playing, the Lakers struggled against Oklahoma City, oddly enough. I don't know what's going on there. But you can kind of see it, but you can't look past tonight. You got to take care of this one and then move on to the two LA teams after this.
Yeah, we'll see if they can take care of Sacramento tonight. We'll talk a little more about that game, maybe get into some other things happening with LaMelo. I want to talk a little about LaMelo more in that Golden State contest, and something I wish he would stop doing. We'll get to that in just a moment. In the City Edition uniforms, you get the picture. Do want to talk to you about McDonald's. Again, this episode of Locked On Hornets is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. It's a place where classmates can meet up for a study group. It's the place you always look forward to stopping at on a long road trip to rest your legs and refuel. That's the one that hits home the most, man. When you're on a road trip, McDonald's, you see that on the exit sign, absolutely pulling over and trying to get some McDonald's. So head to your local McDonald's, because it is a place that has been serving communities again since 1965. Been doing it for a while and helping you out on those long road trips. We appreciate McDonald's being a partner with us here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back with plenty more on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
This is Locked On Hornets.
We said it Monday. They lost to the Pips. They didn't lose to Gladys Knight. They lost to the Pips. They lost to the backup band. They lost to Steve. Now, granted, depending on the backup band, that's still an impressive backup band. If it's like Stevie Wonder's backup band, then yeah, it's awesome. But if it's like Kings of Leon backup band, totally different.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You want to know what makes LeBron James, King James, the guy we just mentioned, help him sleep? That's right. Sleep is his superpower, and Calm is the #1 app for sleep and meditation. It's teamed up with LeBron James to help you activate the power of sleep. When it comes to athletes, we tend to focus on physical fitness, but there's another side to the game that's just as important. It's mental fitness, and Calm, the #1 app, that's CALM, the #1 app for sleep and meditation, has teamed up with LeBron James to help you train your mind and become the champion version of yourself. As he says, quote, "Getting good sleep and finding time to rest is one of the most valuable things I can do for my body and mind. From the sound of rain falling on leaves to bedtime, sleep stories, Calm puts me to sleep within minutes, which means I wake up ready for any challenge." That's what LeBron James is saying about this app. If he's saying it's that good, then you know it's going to be good for you too. Again, for a limited time, our listeners can join LeBron in using Calm and get a 40% discount on a Calm premium subscription at calm.com. Always weird to say, CALM.com/LockedOnNBA. Unlock content to help you focus, ease stress, and sleep better. Get started at calm.com, Locked On NBA. That's calm, CALM.com/LockedOnNBA. Let's go back to this Golden State Warriors game just for a moment, David, just to see if the Hornets can, get past some of the problems that hurt them in that game against the Warriors. One, they just weren't shooting the ball well. Terry Rozier, we've talked about his struggles. That is an excellent shooter for the Hornets, bona fide too, right? Like the last 2 years, this is somebody that has been a sniper from deep on really good volume, and it's just not there right now. Can't hold it against him too much because it's somebody that's had the bum ankle, clearly affected him in the first game against Cleveland. He tried to come back, was awful, didn't play well there. Then kind of got going a little bit with his 20-point performance, but then had the bad clutch moments, right? He passes up the open layup. That was not a good decision. It's not playing the way that certainly he was last year. But again, I think it is a legitimate excuse this early in the season. We've only played not even a handful of contests to come back and try to get your rhythm back. And so the decision-making, it bothers me more than the missed shots right now. Like if you miss your shots, fine. Okay, that's rust, make or miss league type of whole thing. You get the picture. Hopefully the decision-making gets better. But also, David, I wanted to get better a little for LaMelo here recently. The things that kill this team, we know how special Melo is. And when he's dribbling the air out of the basketball at the top of the key, trying to find his own shot from the perimeter and giving you step back threes, that doesn't help him. That doesn't help this team. And that's what hurt them against Golden State a couple of times. And he goes 0 of 6. But when he attacks the basket, it really helps because guys are cutting, and LaMelo sees him. He gets this sixth sense about him. Oh, there's somebody that's going to be open. And then that's why he gives you the highlight pass. And then you go after the game. James Borrego said the same thing. Like, they ask him about the lack of offense. And then so he says, we Terry Rozier struggled from deep, and LaMelo, long pause, just couldn't get to the basket. Yeah, just long pause. Like, he didn't want to blast him, but clearly he was frustrated that LaMelo wasn't driving. David, he's got to drive more. It leads to better decisions, and putting pressure on the basket, it hurts the opposing defense.
First of all, a great move by JB. That's veteran right there. You can't call your youngster out just yet. Take that behind closed doors. But I wonder. I don't think like the wrist is bothering him. I've seen him playing
I don't think
with
so
it.
either.
I don't think so, because he's certainly doing a lot with it. I do see him messing with it, but I think that maybe is just a tick. I mean, we haven't heard anything else. He's got a little hip stinger from the other night, so he shows up on the injury report, but he should be okay tonight, I think. But yeah, I don't know what is going on with all the dribbling. It seems like he's taking like a personal challenge against some of these other young guards that are guarding him. It's not always working out in his favor. Perhaps he's trying to suck the defense in a little bit or hold them a little longer. I don't know, but that's not how this team is going to be successful. And, the fact that JB is acknowledging that and that everyone can see that, it seems like LaMelo thus far has been receptive to stuff like that. And the team has been able to, kind of fix things and steer things how it's going to be successful for them. So they do have to correct that. I mean, he's not to the point yet. I mean, oddly enough, the jump that you're kind of looking for some of these young guys is to be that guy. You look at Ja, he's dominating, right? He's doing everything. He's taking it all in his hand. But LaMelo is not quite there yet. And especially on this team, when you got Miles out there, right? You got Gordon, you got Terry, who's struggling now, but we'll bounce back hopefully. He's got the options. And to your point, like, that's how the team is going to be successful, when LaMelo is bringing guys in and he can create for other people. So sometimes you're just trying to find stuff that works, right? I mean, sometimes he's just trying to, give the defense a different look and figure something out. But if it's not working, you got to go and go to your strength. And I think that will be him driving and dishing. So hopefully we'll see a different LaMelo tonight getting up and running. Just some early struggles and some odd things, just trying to figure stuff out, hopefully.
Yeah. And again, it's not like it's been a constant awful problem recently,
right.
Or the whole season, I should say. It just kind of has shown up. And I think it was very prevalent in this game against Golden State. You could see, yeah, man, just drive to the basket more and allow guys to cut and
getting frustrated.
It is. Yeah. And I think honestly too, he's such a confident guy in his shot, which I will take that 10 times out of 10. Give me the confidence in your shooting every single day. But sometimes it might lead to you being too reliant on it and then giving you the step backs. And to your point too, David, you brought up Miles Bridges and this being somebody that's really confident and, also trying to create his own shot. Essentially, that brings you to a different level of basketball player. The great thing about Miles on offense is that I have not questioned his shot selection. Like, he's taking good shots, and it's why his efficiency has been so good. And so if he misses, it's not because, for the most part, there might be some faders here and there, but step backs are pretty open. Like, even with step backs being a large part of some people's bad shot selection, I think the ones that he's utilized have actually been pretty good. And that's why he's been so efficient, again, in these ISOs that they've been putting him on more and more. Why, he's still attacking the rim. He's still cutting at the right time. That's what's been impressive about Miles, is that, the volume's going up, but they're not bad shots that he's taking. The selection there, the decision-making for Miles has been very good.
Yeah, and it's certainly great when it goes in, and it's going in a lot these days. But I mean, for Miles, clearly made that jump. I mean, it's just incredible to watch. That was a huge question. I mean, we talk about the signing and, the extension not going through beginning of the season. And I know you've talked about it a bunch as well, but at the time I was like, I mean, it kind of makes sense. We know? We don't know. We really don't know if it's going to be a night in, night out thing, even though he finished last season so strong. So to see that is awesome. Just talking about those two guys, not to jump around too much, but I do think that relationship is favorable for the Hornets. You know Absolutely. What I mean? When you're looking at the bond those two guys have, when Miles looks at all his options after the season is over, I just think that's going to be a leg up for the Hornets. Having LaMelo here, having that group here is going to be good for them. But to Miles's credit, I mean, just has really taken off as a creator and a shot maker. I mean, no one ever questioned the athleticism and ability to finish and get out and do crazy things, but the creative, creating for himself and the shot making is just, I think it continues to wow people. You just hear, especially national coverage, they're kind of amazed when these shots keep going in, and a lot of these shots are difficult. These are scorers' shots, and he's making them.
And yeah, you're right. And you bring up the national attention that he's getting. I think that's what's impressive too. It's the fact that he's getting it on his own, not tied to LaMelo, where LaMelo was always going to get it because he's a part of the Ball family. And then he deserved it even more so when he's giving you a rookie of the year type performance. And now people are talking about Miles Bridges just on his own. And then of course it's like,
right.
wait, he and LaMelo, they're so much fun to watch play together. You bring up that relationship. It's a great thing to have what are your two best players right now. And then Gordon is certainly in that mix. Even, as LaMelo grows, as Miles grows, they're going to be definitively your best players, especially if Miles keeps this up. But Gordon's still in the mix right now. Either way, the two timeline best players, the two young guys on your team that fit the timeline, for those players to be best friends, essentially, it works extremely well in your favor. Like how many you don't want the band to break up, right? You don't want them to have creative differences. You want them to be able to be on the same page. And clearly these young, exciting players are all the way on the same page and get along so well together off of the court as well as on the court. And not to ramble on, but it goes back to the Orlando game too, where David Miles is shaking his head after a poor shot selection from LaMelo, but Miles can do that with LaMelo. Like there is a big brother, little brother relationship where it's not like, hey, I'm kind of the big dog, man. You can't tell me nothing. No, like Melo is receptive to that. And I think that's what's huge, the relationship between those two and how it benefits the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, and he's got the cred now. I mean, he's putting in the work. The results are there, so that means a lot more too when you're seeing it on the court from a guy that's doing it night in and night out. So, yeah, I mean, gosh, you think about this. You got to have some luck, when you're building teams. The Hornets haven't had much of it in in their brief history back here in Charlotte. To finally get two guys that are on the same track at the same time on that, on that uptick, and maybe more, but like you think you really have two for sure. That's how you start to build stuff. That's why Hornets fans should feel excited. So kudos to them, and kudos to obviously Miles and LaMelo for putting in the work. But yeah, just exciting times. I think that's going to be a good thing for the Hornets. And they can get some of these other guys to round in and round out. Like you said, we haven't even mentioned Hayward. We haven't even mentioned Terry, who's struggling a little bit, PJ. So there's some pieces there. And certainly as the season gets on rolling, hopefully they'll get in the same groove at the same time.
Yeah, let's talk more about that, and then we'll finally get to the duds that the Hornets donned this year. But I do want to talk to you about Built Bar. I love Thanksgiving, all of the good food, all of the good treats, and plenty of them. But maybe you want a yummy dessert that isn't so full of calories and sugar. And for that, I present to you Built Bar. It's the perfect time for Built Bar. Feast on something delicious and feel good about it instead of having one slice of pie, upwards to 300 calories. Maybe you're just not ready for that at that time. That's okay. Most Built Bars are only 130 calories, and they only have 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. So that's an option you can go with if you ain't ready for the pie at that time. The staples are good. All of the limited time flavors are good. If you want to stock up on that for holiday season, go to BuiltBar.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off of your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and put the finishing touches on the Locked On Hornets podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
This is Locked On Hornets.
For right then, I felt like I had some synergy with Mitch, and I felt like, you know what? I'm in these guys' heads. I understand. I talk. I listen. I did all the right things. And then
what voices were you listening to? Were you listening to the voices deep within your head saying, this is what I think Mitch is going to do, and then you just regurgitated that back onto Twitter?
That's what I always do.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
All right, David, you're the guy I want to talk to about this the most. I've asked Rod Boone, talked a little about it, I believe, with Dylan Jackson earlier this week. But we all know you're the guy that we need to talk about the jerseys with, the shoe game, city editions, they were released. You tweeted about it. I think your opinions kind of what has been the majority. Like there's a lot going on here. Okay.
Yeah.
You've got the honeycomb at the very top. You got the honeycomb at the very bottom. You've got it kind of meshing with one another, the gradient. You have the pinstripes trying to leak out of that in the middle. The script Charlotte, that's never been before used, and that's something that they were hyping up. You know, David, I've said this a couple of times, but it is growing on me. And I know a lot of people have kind of had a little bit of a similar opinion too. Like, you know what, the more I look at it, the better it looks. There's clearly a ton going on. It's very loud. It demands your attention. But I've said this a million times. If you miss going all the way, 100%, hey, let's get wild and see if it works, then I am way okay with you missing that way. Don't miss by going bland, trying to be, hey, let's go subtle. It might be cool if we go subtle. Nah, man, go crazy. And if you miss, that's completely fine with me. What are your thoughts on the City Edition unis?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I took about a day to really come around on these things just because they smack you in the face, man. I mean, there's so much going on. It looks like, it looks like it leaked too early almost when it first came out. Yeah. And I mean, holy God, did they cram everything? They threw everything at the wall and then just put it all on that jersey. But I mean, where do we start? Yeah. So the script, never been on a jersey before. They pulled that from the pennants that were at the original 1988 uniform reveal. That's where they got that script from. So, okay, sure. Let's go with that. When they mentioned they gave the Bobcats a nod with the right justification of the number on the jersey again. I mean, sure, let's do that. Doug felt it was not a big enough of a nod, so he wasn't in on that. But, I think to your point, like you can't look away from it almost, right? Like I keep going back to it. I want to see if I've noticed anything new, like if there are any new Easter eggs in there. But I'm also interested to see like how it looks on court and on TV, because I think like the gradient is going to go a lot smoother. You're not going to see the honeycomb, I think, obviously, when you're watching the game back and forth as much as you do when they zoom in on it. But like when they put it on that court, man, I mean, and you got the teal and everything going crazy at home against the Knicks, against Kemba Walker, that's when they're debuting this thing. So I think it's going to be a banger. I think it's really cool. I think that's exactly what you do with this uniform. To your point, like, look at Oklahoma City. Like, I don't want to bag on any of these uniforms, but it's all white. Like, I don't understand that. Yeah. I don't understand why some of these teams are basically redoing the same uniforms that they've done in the past. Like Phoenix's looks cool, but we just saw them last year. New Orleans didn't even try. They've got enough on their plate. They're like, we're just here, take this. We're going to wear this. It says NOLA. So like, you got to try with these uniforms. This is your chance to just go crazy, where the NBA, Nike say, here's the inspiration. This is what we want to do. And the Hornets have kind of earned that benefit of the doubt with these uniforms, right? Like they killed the one last year with the Mint City. Everyone loved that. This one just feels like a 90s throwback vibe and everyone's feeling it. Like, I'm with you. Don't go back to the gray. Don't go back to the boring, ones. Let's go crazy. Let's get funky. And that's exactly what they did. And I think the more people look at it, the more they're like, I gotta see these wearing. I gotta see what they look like. So good job.
You almost have to come around on it. And there are a couple of things that help you take this more in. One, I think the shorts by themselves look really good. There is a little more subtlety to it. I like the logo. I think it's like bottom right of the shorts. If you see the Hornet with the basketball, the classic logo, him dribbling, it's a classic logo. I think the shorts by themselves look good. And I'll say this, there was a video, it might have been the Crown Club. Shout out to them. Yeah. I think that might be right if they released this video, kind of looking up. But they were looking at the jerseys. And I don't know if it's one of these things where the fast food restaurant dupes me because the commercial always makes the food look better by altering it with something that isn't edible. I don't know if you have that going on with the video, but the video did look better. When they're starting to go in on the details, I think it pops more. As crazy as that sounds, I think it pops more with the detail, but it almost makes it look better. I don't know if I'm getting duped like the fast food customer that wants to go get a cheeseburger, but it's working on me when they gave that close up.
Yeah, that's fine. It's like one of those old pictures, where you get in real close and you step back and stuff just starts popping out at you. Mm-hmm. That's what this reminds me of, and I love it. Like the teal, they nail the teal. I mean, it pops. And I don't know if we're thinking about the mint from last year as a little more muted, but like everything clashes, but it goes together, and like that's hard to pull off. And I think they did it.
Yeah, and so you say they earned the benefit of the doubt because the Mint Cities, I think, were pretty widely accepted as the best in the NBA. Did you want to see them play off that, or are you happy that they went something crazy different?
So I thought it was an easy transition to do, kind of reverse the mint and the gold and have gold jerseys. I thought that would have been an easy one to do. But look, Doug and I talked about this a little bit this week. They've got that in their arsenal now. They can pull that out whenever they need to. If they have a rough, homework assignment next year, can't figure something out, just, hey, flip those into gold and you're good to go. Like, I think they've folded mint and gold into their palette now with last year. So like, it was cool to see, but I think with these city editions and the 75th anniversary and the assignments kind of that Nike gives these teams every year, try something different, man. It's only a couple games. And I think when you hit it, you hit it. And I think they did it again, man. So they're 2 for 2 in the last 2 years. Mints were crazy. These are just as crazy, but just in a new and fun way.
Let's get to LaMelo's Pumas. One, how do you like the shoe game of one LaMelo as he's starting to have that become a little more popular as he becomes more popular? And Terry Rozier out here sporting the Pumas. That's pretty cool.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, Terry's wearing the I think they're the LaMelo M1s or something. I probably know the name of them, but Puma doesn't do a very good job of marketing these things, so that's not my fault. But I like them. Everyone's looking for that pop of the orange too. I think that's cool. That's a good way to do it. It's amazing that he already has a signature shoe. I mean, Luka Doncic doesn't have a signature shoe. Trae Young, I think, just got one. So certainly going to Puma sped up that timeline. So good on them and good on the marketing department over there. But I think we need to see some more colorways. We've seen a black and teal version in warmups. I think, I don't know, there's been some pictures of that floating around. I don't think he's worn that in a game yet. Now the city edition jerseys, it'd be a perfect time to wear those things. So maybe he'll do that then. But first shoes are always interesting to see how they do. I generally, I was getting tired of like the monochrome all one color, but it's starting to wear me down
either, man. Yeah. Like that's the thing for me too. Like, and again, I like the brightness. I do generally like trying to go for some crazy stuff, but I felt like he stuck to it too much. It's time to give me something different.
Yeah, and all his shoes last year, which was a different shoe, but they were all one color, so no one knows. No one can tell. Like, that's the one thing I say, Puma, like, let us know. Like, show me some details, And there are some details on this shoe, but you can't see that on court. You can barely see it, in a close-up picture. So I would like to see them change the color blocking on these a little bit more and just show us what's going on.
Well, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but like I feel like with Puma anyway, the design already is pretty subtle. You don't have as much going on with the design. And so I almost need different colors to make it pop, to get the contrast, because the design just isn't going to draw you in. Like there's not a ton of detail to it anyway, which is fine. Like I don't have a huge problem with the design of the Pumas. I thought they looked pretty cool, but I think you do need the contrasting colors. And for you to go all one color pretty frequently, that's the thing. I thought it's time to change
it's been done. Kanye kind of did it with the Red Octobers, and it's odd because Ish is wearing the Kyrie made up all red, and just watching the game you think they're wearing the same shoes, so that's not good. You got to separate yourself a little bit more than just the colors. So hopefully we'll see that coming up.
Do you like the mantra out of this world for LaMelo?
I think it's good. It's not bad, it's not bad. You remember the advertisement they did when he had like 6 fingers. That was kind of weird. That was weird. I don't know if I don't know if they've leaned into that yet. I don't know if they'll go back to that because it kind of freaks me out when you see
weird.
that. No shot at people with extra, appendages and whatnot, but it's one way to go. And I think depending on how they spin that, they can make that work. So we need a commercial. We need a LaMelo, commercial, and maybe around All-Star or something we'll get it, because he's got the personality. His post-game interviews are getting up there.
Well, and we've talked about this too with LaMelo. You mentioned Luka Doncic not even having his signature shoe. LaMelo is going to be as marketable as they come. Now, what hurts him is the fact that he doesn't give you all of the goods in these interviews, it's hard to get a ton of stuff out of him. He's not here for your questions. Okay, that's not necessarily
just hooping.
But
hooping, man.
Right, but that's right. But for real, yeah, that's what LaMelo will say at the end. But he is an exciting brand of player, of course. Last thing before we get you out of here, David, too, need to definitely talk about the neon ensemble that he wore after the first game, standing next to the Lambo that was also neon. I mean, I love it. I love every bit of it.
Yeah, I think you have to. You have to do that the first game if you're gonna. When I take my Lambo out,
for sure.
Now it's gray, it's ash gray, so it works. So I just wear this with it. But yeah, I mean, he knew what he was doing, right? Like, and he was ready to roll. He was ready to do it. That was like, it looked like Jim Carrey out of The Mask. I mean, I'm sure somebody's made that comparison, but fantastic, LaMelo. Keep up the good work. Maybe bring that back when it gets a little colder, because it was just a lot of layers, a lot of flowing, a lot of color. But God bless you. Keep doing your thing.
And the sunglasses on, by the way, that was underrated. We didn't talk about that as much. The sunglasses with all the brightness that was going on inside the media room. When he walked in there, man, we were all like, okay, this is amazing. I was there for the post-game interview, and it was outstanding to watch him leave, come in. It was hilarious to see. So,
oh man, that's great.
Shouts to LaMelo wearing it. All right, David, thank you so much for hopping on. Let's make this a weekly thing.
Yeah.
Also, people can check you out at This Is Not a Serious Hornets podcast. You host that alongside Doug Branson, who people might be familiar with listening to Locked On Hornets, and they can find you on Twitter at David B. Walker. I'm excited, man. Thanks for hopping on, and we appreciate it. Can't wait to talk to you next week.
Absolutely, man. Talk to you next week, buddy.
All right, sounds good. It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll be back with you on Monday.